On one hand, potions are a pretty small part of Slay the Spire. You can't do a potion build, and you can't really make plans for if you get one or not. Their effects are temporary and limited. On the other hand, they are extremely helpful tools to bypass elites, take down bosses, and generally make it to the heart. Since you can't keep them between runs, you're motivated to use them, unlike in Final Fantasy or other long-form games, where I'll need it more later. I'd certainly forgotten about them, as they probably should have been covered alongside relics. Oops. We'll be making 3 potions. 2 for in-combat, and 1 for out-of-combat. The first will be a potion to channel my toxic orbs for the defect. Let's go with 1 orb for every 2 enemies, with a minimum of 1 orb. The second will target an enemy and apply a single stack of vulnerable and weakness. The third will be an out-of-combat potion that grants 30 gold. These will be the Toxin Potion, Fulminating Potion, and Gilded Potion, respectively. The top of the potion is going to go through the same song and dance we've done before. Make the potion ID, get the potion strings, and extract the name and descriptions. We're then going to add 3 color variables: liquid color, hybrid color, and spots color. The liquid color will be the primary color of our potion. The hybrid color is overlaid to create a highlight effect on the potion, or create a striking color combination. The spots color allows us to add colored spots to the potion. We don't need hybrid and spots, and can instead pass in the liquid color or a transparent color to remove them. We can get a desired color using cardhelper.getColor, passing in 3 RGB values, between 0 and 256. We can also make our own color with new color passing in RGBA values between 0 and 1. To open our constructor, we need to call the superconstructor. This needs the name, the ID, a potion rarity, a potion size, and a potion color. The potion size is actually the shape of the bottle. Test a couple out and see which fits best. Since we're defining our own colors and I haven't figured out how to use the game's preset options, I pass null to the potion color. For the untargeted potions, our constructor is now complete. Our targeted potion does need to have 2 booleans set though. Is thrown and target required need to be set to true. This will allow it to be thrown and target an enemy, though I'm not sure why there's 2 variables for this. In the default's potion constructor, they get the potency and set up the description, then make a tooltip for the potion. We'll be overriding the initialize data function and putting this data in here. The superconstructor already calls initialize data, and Sacred Bark does so as well. By initializing our data in this function, the tooltip will update properly when the player obtains the relic. Although we'll need to clear the tips or we'll get stacking tooltips. Let's take a moment to talk about potency. This is the strength of the potion. This is the number that Sacred Bark doubles. Well, to be precise, Sacred Bark doesn't actually do anything. Instead, abstract potions get potency function, which takes no arguments, looks at the player to see if they have the Sacred Bark relic. If they do, it returns twice the child's get potency function, which takes an integer for the ascension level. There are potions like Blessing of the Forge and Entropic Brew that don't have doubled effects and can ignore the potency value. This is where my toxic potion runs into a problem. I do want to have a doubled effect, but the easiest way to implement it would be to have the number of required enemies, bringing it from 1 orb for every 2 enemies to 1 orb per enemy. Instead of using the potency system, I instead check for the sacred bark in my use function, and modify my values accordingly. Speaking of the use function, this is where what our potion does happens. The function has an abstract creature parameter, which will have the targeted monster for targeted potions. It is otherwise null. What we can do here is much the same as with cards and events, so I won't dwell on this further. What is important is whether we can use the potion. My interest here is in making a potion that can be used outside of combat, but you could also implement it so it can't be used if the player has no cards or something. For out of combat, I reference the code of fruit juice, which makes 2 if statements, returning false in each. The first checks if abstractdungeon.actionmanager.turn has ended and abstractdungeon.getCurRoom.phase is equal to abstractroom.roomphase.combat. Basically, are we in combat and it isn't the player's turn? The second checks if getCurRoom.event is not null, and if the event is an instance of events.shrines.wemeetagain. This makes sure you can't drink the potion, then try to give it away to Ranwid. If either of these 2 cases is true, return false, otherwise return true. The last function we need is make copy. Unless you're doing something really fancy, we can just return a new instance of our potion. Now we need our potion strings. Like with used, I expect that you know how this works by now. Potions just have potion ID, name, and descriptions. Make sure to load the strings in our main class's receiveEditStrings function. Finally, add the potions to the game. I call my editPotions function in receivePostInitialize. It's basemod.addPotion, passing in the potion's class, its liquid, hybrid, and spots colors, and the potion ID. There's also the optional parameter for limiting the potion to 1 class. So, I never wrote a proper outro, so I'm kind of just winging it today. I'm late, as is normal, I suppose, and I think after this, the series might go on hiatus a bit. I'm taking part in the Sock Pop Community Game Jam right now, and I plan on doing the AI and Games Game Jam, which is a week long and then is followed almost immediately by the GMTK Jam. And between that and what little research I've done on encounters that I've been promising for months, it doesn't look like I'll really be able to have anything until July at the earliest. And I don't even know if I can do encounters now because there's doesn't seem to be any resource I've found for it. So if you do know of anything, put it down in the comments. Let me know. And if I don't find anything for that, then the next time I come back, we'll be looking at making our own character. So yeah, see you all around.